Here we go. Let's get some action. Here I come. I'm just going to play a preview of a review that I've essentially just sent in that they said, yeah, it's cool. So that's what I'll do while I sort myself out. Hello and welcome to another Sonic Lab. This is Ableton Live. This is a track I've been working on. But more importantly, this is the brand new Samsung CJ89 49-inch super wide curved monitor, which is massive. 49 inches from corner to corner. It's also got this curved approach, which means that when you're looking at it, the quality of, it's matched to the shape of your eyes, so you're not kind of like missing any peripheral. It keeps it sort of wrap around. It's not a new thing, I suppose. We've seen curved monitors before, and lots of audio professionals are using them, and that's basically comes down to workflow and workspace. And this Samsung got in touch with us and said that they were trying to kind of encourage people to look at it from a sort of DAW point of view. One of the employees there used to work for a music technology company, and he was kind of championing that. And so they sent me one, and it is massive. And it really is a big old thing. Looks amazing. The actual resolution is 4K in the left to right, so you've got two 1080 size displays and one 1080 high. So effectively, if you had this in 4K, it would be twice the height. But this is designed really for the desktop, and it's perfect, really, as you can see here on Ableton Live, to be to show you kind of the entire timeline and workspace. And of course, if I tab here, I can flip between. I've got the mixer and the sessions on this. In fact, if I turn the brightness up, you'll probably be able to see that a bit better. On this monitor, tabbing takes me to the other. So I've got these two views. But I've also got a Reaper session here, which I will throw up here. And this is, again, full timeline. And we've also got the, if I play this, it might work. Let's have a look. But it gives me sort of a whole view of the entire song. Plus, I've got a little bit of, let's see if I can play that. Yeah, there we go. Plus, I've got a spectrum analyzer here, and then I've got my mixer on this window here. This again is another track of mine. But I wanted to show you really how it worked with a couple of DAWs. It's a really impressive thing. I mean, when it first arrived, it was massive. It comes in a box that's kind of the size of a wardrobe, so when you get it delivered, you're going to need to make sure you've got someone to help you put it in place. And the thing is, I mean, looking at it here, it takes a lot of space up on the desk, but that's the idea, really. I mean, we all use monitors a hell of a lot in our work. If we're working in music, I've been using this on the NLE for editing video as well, and it's really good because I get a big timeline plus a preview window and all kinds of stuff on it, and it gives me this really massive working space. And it's not big. I mean, as I said, it could be 4K, but if it was 4K, it'd be right up here. So in terms of where I want to position it, it would actually, I'd be looking up and down a bit, and I like to kind of keep things in one plane for myself. If I'm sort of having to search for things, I find it a little bit difficult. Should point out this thing comes on a stand, which you can raise and lower. That's the highest it comes to, which kind of introduces one issue that might be a problem for some of you. I've just got a monitor here, and you can see it doesn't quite clear just this little monitor. I mean, I can put them left and right of this, but it might be a bit too wide depending on how close you are to it. However, there is a Visa mount on the back, which means that you can put it much further up and have your near fields kind of close for desktop work, so that could work as well. The other thing that's really sort of unique, I suppose, about this is it has USB-C connectivity, which means it hooks directly up to a Mac in this case. This is 15-inch 2017 MacBook Pro. I've got a single cable going into the monitor, and that's giving me this large screen, but it's also powering this guy. So I'm getting the power I need, don't have any other cables. And in this case, I've added my hard drive. There's a USB 3 socket and 2 USB 2 sockets. So I'm running the entire session sort of through the hub. I wouldn't recommend that necessarily, because what happens is, what I'll show you, there are other inputs as well. We've also got a DisplayPort input, there are three USB-C inputs. You've got 2 USB-C sources plus a USB for the hub, and that's quite interesting because that enables you to have a kind of KVR switch, so you could have a keyboard and a mouse connected and a couple of computers, possibly up to 3 or 4, I suppose, if you've got 2 USB-Cs, DisplayPort and an HDMI, and flipping them you can set it up so that it routes the USB to the host computer. So depending on how you've hooked it up, you can actually have it like a sort of mini KVR switch. But if you do that with a hard drive connected, it drops the connection, so you want to watch out for that. I'm going to do this, I'm going to take the chance, because the other thing that's really cool about this monitor is we've got this, like we say, this 3000, what is it? I've got the specs here. It's 3840 pixels by 1080. But I've also got the ability to go picture by picture, so that's 2. So on this Mac here, I've also got a dongle, which what I'm doing is I'm plugging an HDMI dongle in, which now that allows me to run this monitor in picture by picture mode. We won't see it just yet. So now I'm pressing picture by picture, and I've had to do a little bit of arrangement of the monitors on the Mac just to get them in the right way. So my mouse goes left to right across the boundary and then down to this monitor here. And I've got Reaper again in this window, and on this side I've just got a web browser in full screen, which is in fact the page for the CJ89 monitor. One thing I will mention, the USB-C cable that comes with in the box, which I didn't actually discover was there, because it was tucked inside with the mains cables, is the only one I could find that worked as a direct connectivity mode. I did buy myself another USB-C cable, but this isn't the right one. It doesn't have enough bandwidth in the actual cable part, so you need to make sure you're using the right USB-C cable. I also tried the one that comes with the Mac from the power supply into the Mac. That didn't work either. It's enough only really to hold power. So if you're wondering why it perhaps doesn't work, you definitely need to get a high quality USB-C to USB-C cable, and they're harder to find than you might imagine. I tried twice, and in the end the only one that worked was with the unit. And I can also set it up so that when I switch sources, I can map specific USB inputs to the specific sources, so I can use it like a KVR switch. So I might have a PC on this side and a Mac on this side, keyboard and mouse connected to this, so when I switch, it allows me then to kind of control whichever computer I particularly want to. One thing that's quite annoying, certainly on the Mac, is if I now wanted to change modes, which I will show you this because we can also do a picture by picture, which is, if I just go menu, picture by picture, and I can do the size, and I can set a picture by picture. I'll switch that, so that means we're now picture in picture. Don't know how it's going to come up. Right, so we got, I think there's a picture in picture, but it messes up. The Mac doesn't seem to be able to handle multiple resolutions and remember configurations. On the PC it's much more straightforward. I could do stuff like, if I go back to my, let's see if it comes back, because what will probably happen now is I switch back to my picture by picture mode, and it probably won't come back as I had it. It will come back slightly differently. Oh no, it does come back, sort of, but now half my stuff's missing. But the one thing that on a PC that's quite cool that you can do, yeah, it changes the arrangement of the screens. The Mac just doesn't remember that kind of stuff. And also, the other thing that you can't do, on a PC, you can take maybe a window and drag it across the boundary, so it effectively can be like a stretch desktop or 2 separate desktops which you can have windows to kind of expand. You can't do that on a Mac for some reason, and that's just the limitation of, I don't know whether it's this Mac or Macs in general. They've made it a little harder to manage the desktop space in the way that you want, and like I say, quite often you switch modes and your monitor arrangements in the arrangement window on the Mac is all cocked up, and it's really quite annoying and quite hard to demonstrate when you're trying to show how easy it is. But I will say this monitor is a great addition. I mean, once you've figured out how you can fit it in, perhaps with your near-field monitors, mounting issues, that sort of thing, it will really, I hate to say revolutionise, but it does really change the way that you work and you interact, because for so long, you know, we spend such a lot of time in front of computers. It's worth, I think, investing in something that will actually allow you to get the most out of your time that you do spend in front of a computer, rather than being frustrated and sort of peering in. And that's something that's very appealing. This does come at a price, however. I mean, this is 899 quid, so it's a seriously expensive monitor. I feel perhaps it's a little bit on the high side, but I'm presuming it's all that extra USB and port switching and side of things that adds to the price. I mean, it can't be underestimated how handy it is just to be able to plug one cable in and have the whole thing kind of come up in such a massive screen. And it's one of the, yes, it is to a degree a luxury, and you could buy a much cheaper just 4K monitor and have all of that screen real estate, assuming your video card will support it. But there's something about this kind of curved extra wide which really works nicely with the NLE and the DAW being able to see an entire arrangement rather than having to scroll all the time. So it's one of those things that you kind of think, do I need it? You probably don't need it. I mean, you know, you could presumably do stuff on your phone if you chose, but seeing as you work on your computer and you want a lot of screen real estate, it's definitely something to check out, even if it's maybe not this one. They do other different flavours which are different prices. But for this guy, yeah, you're paying for the luxury of this really rather splendid screen. Anyway, that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. That was the Samsung CJ89 49-inch ultra-wide curved display. See you next time. Yes, so just running that by, which will be coming out. I just realised that there are speakers involved on that monitor, and they don't sound all that great. I mean, they're okay, stereo speakers, but they, I'll maybe add a little bit to that before it goes live. That was just a little preview. You know, I like to sometimes offer that as a possibility. Right, I better get some... get a few more things ready to go. Just waiting for our contestants. Well, I say contestants. We've got Mark Tinley, Charles Chicky Reeves. Haven't seen him for a long time. He's been on the road. And Jamie Liddell, who seems to be becoming addicted to Sonic Talk, which is great because he's a great guest. What's happening in the chat room then? Chevy Trailer says, is it USB only? No, it has 3 USB-C inputs. So you have 2 monitor inputs and 1 USB hub input/output. These will all power a MacBook Pro through 1 cable. It's also got what's it called? DisplayPort and an HDMI. So, I hope that answers your questions. USB-C. Yeah, right. Gosh, it's got very warm in here. I wonder if I should open the... Finally, I think it's just because I'm about to go live. I suddenly get a bit flushed, you know, when you get to my age. Flushed with excitement. So we're just waiting for everybody to show up. We're a bit early. If this is your first time, then you'll be able to enjoy the full Monty. Let's see what they're saying in the chat room. Yeah, 900. Did I say 900? The monitor is 899. If that's what you were asking, I didn't see the question that came. Oh, how much? No, the 808 clone, we don't know how much it's going to be, but I shouldn't imagine it would be that expensive. No, I would think the RD08 is probably going to be closer to $400 or $500, I would imagine, at the most, because that's what they like to do, don't they? They like to make things a lot less. And also, what's the boutiques? Boutiques, are they 349? The TR08, is it 349 or whatever it's called? I can't even remember what it's called. There are so many sort of slight changes in nomenclature with between the boutiques and the IRAs. I can't quite keep up with it. Sinister Goatshire Fish, what's coming up for review? Well, I've got the Microvolt here, which may... Maybe, I don't know if you... Yeah, I think you are getting that. That's going through a bunch of effects. I still haven't really got to grips with that yet. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if the Erebus 3 is as creamy as the other one. I mean, we'll have to see, because I have not got a hold of one yet, and I would imagine it'll be a little while off yet. Neutron pre-order for $299 July the 1st. Oh, that'd be good. Kind of important they get them in the channels now, I think, because that's the major criticism. That's the risk any company runs by pre-announcing and kind of expecting people to hold out. You sort of have to try and get them in there as soon as you. And have I ever used the Roland Detective John? Have I ever used the Roland Dim D rack? No, I think I might have done it in a studio once, but no, I do remember that you're supposed to press in all the buttons to get the secret sound, but I think there's a Dim D. I think there's a Dim D in the X32 and in the X-Air, as well as you've got UAD one, I think, as well. Chevy Trailer UK Super Booth was really knackering this year. Yes, it certainly was. We're all a bit worn out. Microvolt by Pittsburgh Modular. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at next. That'll be the Microvolt 3900. By Pittsburgh Modular. NeoRev want to pre-order the Neutron. The US sites, there's nowhere to do it in the US yet. Oops. Yeah, I don't know. What else? Like the Treadstone Analog Solutions Treadstone. Yeah, we got an interview with Tom Carpenter in the bag. That'll be coming on at some point in the not too distant future. We did a few Meet the Makers, did an interview with Andrew Huang, an interview with Vlad Krimer from Soma Laboratories, who's an interesting fellow. Chris Randall, that was good, and Tom Carpenter. So I've got sort of four, not five, four things to come still from Super Booth. Still got a few stories to write for some of those videos. Ear Monkey Music. I think that, if I'm correct, is Jim. Pre-ordered Grandmother yesterday. Interesting. I wondered about that. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, because, you know, it's the same ladder filter, which is fine. But it seems to have sparked a bit more interest. I think that spring reverb looks like something interesting. And it sounds like you can make it really wet and make the spring last quite a long time. I'm just kind of not all that excited by Moog voices at the moment, because they are generally of much the same architecture and classic components, which is what Moog are famous for, so that's fair enough. But it would be nice to see them do something a little bit outside the box as well. Not that I'm knocking it, it's just, you know, it doesn't thrill me quite in the same way, but it does look like a nice thing. I like the aesthetic of it. Moog should make a grandfather, and it has Polly. Yeah, interesting idea. Well, there were all sorts of rumours going around that there was going to be a synth coming out for Moog Fest, and everybody's going, oh, I wonder if it is actually a Poly Moog or a Memory Moog. And it doesn't look like it, does it? It looks like it's going to be, it's the grandmother, which is, again, an interesting choice of name. DFAM wasn't outside the box. Well, I suppose it was to a degree. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I should have seen this state. All right, for now, looks like a game changer. Let's have a look. So we should. Yeah, we got someone there. Who's that? That's number 2. That's Charles. Not hearing you yet. Are you hearing me? Liking your backdrop. We've got the sofa and the Matrix Brute kind of at right angles. Not get. You might need to. Sometimes what you have to do is you set the audio in the web browser, but then you have to restart the web browser for it to sort of take hold. So that may have been what happened. So if you just quit and restart, then that might do it for you. We'll see. That's our first guest. See, lots of chat going past in the chat room today. And we've also got the subharmonicon as well, which we've seen. That looks interesting, actually. Although I have to say, this computer did have a Windows update, which seemed to be quite a big one this morning, which you can't switch off on Windows 10. And I wonder if that might have broken some things. I hope not. I don't think so, because everything else seemed to work. We'll just wait and see whether... What you need to do, Charles, I think in the top, depending on whether you're on Safari or whatever, there's a little star or a video icon. Firefox, there should be a video icon to the left or right of the address bar. You click on that, it shows you what audio device you've got attached to it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I wrote some instructions which I can send you now, which may or may not help, because I can't remember. I did look into it. So, Charles, it's forgivable. You've been away for a long time. I'm sure you haven't had to set this up for this particular, your computer up for this. So I've sent you an email which may or may not shed light on how it works. We're definitely on, as far as I can tell. Don't think I've got any routing issues. Well, we'll find out soon enough when everyone else comes up, I suppose. Whether it's you or me, I can't tell yet. I suppose I could... No, I don't think I will. That's an interesting quote. Moog, that's Nabucco. Moog is like Mexican food, lots of different variations, but always the same ingredients. That's quite a good quote, actually. I might put that. Ah, I hear somebody. I hear something.
You hear me?
I hear you.
Can you see how well do you hear me?
I hear you pretty good.
Okay, I'm just using the. Well, do you hear that? If I tap on this mic, do you hear that?
No.
Okay, so that means this mic is not working. I mean, it's working, but for some reason the program's not seeing it. So I'll just use the mic built into the computer if that's okay.
That's all right. It works fine when you're in a kind of treated room, so that's okay. Oh, that's not you. Let's try that one. Yeah, we'll go half and half there. That's all right. Lovely to see you, Charles. Been a while.
Lovely to see you. It has been a while. I've been.
You must be road ragged or whatever is the term.
I'm pretty. Yeah, I'm pretty tired.
Also,
I can't find my in-ears, so I'm having to use like big clunky headphones right now. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's no problem.
Yeah, so I was gone about 2 months.
Wow. Seems longer. Seems longer for some reason.
It's because I've been on tour basically since October. So I was on tour a lot of October, all of November, most of December. I was back in January, but very busy in January. Then I was gone all of February, all of March, all of April.
Wow.
So, we still have like another 30 shows or so to go, but luckily those are kind of we fly to the show, do it, fly back. So not a lot of tour bus stuff. But yeah.
Do you get that thing with the tour bus when you're when you've been on the tour bus for a while and you get out and you're sort of walking around the stage and it feels like you're on a ship because you're sort of used to that gentle motion? You get
oh yeah,
you get your bus legs.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah, it's you know, it's I have to say this tour has been quite easy for that sort of thing because it's, you know, we rock up to venues and usually start setting up about 11 in the morning, and then we're ready to go, you know, for showtime. We break down, we're back on the bus by midnight. You know, it's reasonably easy. Whereas when I was on the Howard Jones tour, it was similar schedule, except that we had to start a bit earlier because there were all these other bands on or performing before us. We were the headline act, and then the other thing is we were doing like 7 days in a row, then have a day off, 7 days in a row, have a day off. So it was very intense. But this was like 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off. So it's very, very easy. Whereas with Prince, it was a completely different thing. It's like, you know, you get up to a venue at 6 in the morning, start setting up, you're back in bed by 2 in the morning, you wake up the next day inside the next venue. It's just, and it was like that for, you know, 4 hours of sleep every night for 2 months.
Jeez.
God, that was crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, so anything other is quite yeah.
This was very, and this was a very good tour. I mean, it went really, really well.
Yeah,
So,
I saw pictures of lots of sellout stuff. I managed to play a couple of my tracks to thousands of unsuspecting.
Yes, in fact,
Excellent.
I did. Yes,
Awesome.
Especially robot. Like, well, people would come and go, "Who is that?" And I go, "Oh, it's this guy back in the UK. His name is Nick Batt. Oh, God, he's so amazing."
Oh, jeez, that's what I need.
Great.
Ah,
Oh, there's
Mr.
somebody.
Liddell, I don't think you two have met before. I hear you.
We've not met.
Is it really loud, my thing?
Not necessarily. I can turn it down. I mean, I've got a fader.
I'm probably clipping. Up, hey! There you go. That looks more appropriate. Hello.
Hello, Charles.
How's it going?
Meet Jamie Liddell, extraordinarily
Hello,
vocalist,
Jamie.
Charles.
songwriter, and whatnot. And
How you doing?
this is Charles Chicky Reeves, who's just come back off the road with what seemed like, well, at least 2 months with OMD in America and all over the
America.
place.
Man.
Yeah, the last tour was
Man.
America, but we've done all of Europe and all of North America, and now we're going to do all the UK and Europe again.
maneuvers.
Yes,
Every
lots of maneuvering.
lots of maneuvering. I mean, the inevitable maneuvering jokes. But yeah, amazing, sick.
Yeah.
So yeah. How you feeling?
I'm good now. Well, today is actually I'm a little bit under the weather today, but generally speaking, good. Yeah, it's good to be back. I'm back, and I immediately dive into like I'm doing a soundtrack thing, so I've got the Matrix brewed out to make all kinds of weird noises. So
What kind of
doing a bunch of
soundtrack?
scoring. It's a scoring thing for a science fiction film, which I should be finished by the end of summer probably.
How do you get those kind of gigs? Are they just is that your kind of regular gig?
No, I get those because so I put out this album, this Chicky and Coco record I put out a while back, about a year ago, and it's really off the back of that. People hear that and they go, "Oh, I'd love you to put some stuff together for our film," and that's just sort of snowballed. And now
Are they kind of indie movies?
Yeah, generally speaking, there is.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's this one that I'm working on is quite a high budget sort of thing, so it's
Yeah,
indie
man.
with lots of money. So so
Awesome.
that's what I like, you know.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude, yeah,
so
that's the
that's-
whole grail. Good
Yeah.
luck finding any other avenues of the music business that kind of, you know,
Yeah.
those two
Well, I mean,
things are overlapping, indie and money.
Yeah.
Two incompatible Vens. But yeah,
Yeah, for me,
congrats,
it's been-
man. Look forward to hearing that.
This and doing the live stuff. The live stuff has been very good. So
Oh, man, that's awesome. Yeah. Keeping the
see if
lifeblood
we
of
can
music
make it.
going, my man.
Excellent.
exactly.
Well, if you didn't know, Charles is front of house, really accomplished front of house guy. So has a.
Amazing.
If you're ever looking, I'm sure if his
Yeah,
wife lets
man.
him back on.
Wow.
I do seem to
Yeah,
tour
exactly.
quite a bit.
We have Mark.
Oh,
Mark
hey.
looks like he's wrestling with audio. Needs perhaps A bit more
Hello,
level.
Mark Tinley.
I don't know yet because he hasn't said anything. I heard something and it sounded quiet, but I don't know how quiet was.
Hello.
That's all right.
Is that working at all?
That's
definitely not
working.
quiet.
Is it working?
That's potent.
It's working fine, although if you have to go there, it's going to be a weird shot.
Do I?
That's true.
Oh, how about there? I don't think I can get any more.
Where's
gain
your
out.
video camera?
Yeah, your video camera's not pointing, so you're kind of looking away. It just looks a bit odd, which is fine if you're up for that. But
It's yeah,
Aloof.
I've just
If you're into the
found
aloof.
everything in a bit of a panic. I'm afraid I saw the link for about 5 minutes ago. So my
okay,
video camera is sitting on my desk,
right.
and I don't think the cable's going to be long enough to put it anywhere else. So
Excellent.
That's looking good.
That's all right.
Just move it like that the whole show.
No, don't do that.
That won't be
Mate,
distracting
hang on,
at
I'll
all.
find a spanner or something.
You have no
Yeah.
idea. You have no idea how much flack I get for moving a video camera around when I'm actually filming stuff at Super Booth. It's really hard
I'm going
to
to hold it in place with this.
Oh right, careful!
Yeah.
Bang went
that better?
something.
That's good.
It's still
Yeah.
a bit weird, isn't it?
Where are you? One. That's all right. Yeah, it's okay.
Is this sort
Okay.
of a profile shot?
It is. It'll work.
Yeah, man.
There we go.
Phew.
How are you, Nick?
That was good.
I'm okay, mate. I just finished the review of the that massive Samsung CJ89 curved monitor, which is, as it turns out, it took me a really long time to figure this out, that it's a USB-C monitor, so you can literally, from your MacBook, one cable into it, the monitor will charge your Mac, and it'll run this 3840 by 1080 display, curved display, and it's got a USB hub in it, so you can feed all this up. So one cable into the monitor will power everything. It's really nice. But
How much is it?
How much does it cost?
yes, well, there's that. It's 900 quid. So it's quite expensive, but it's got 3 USB-C connections, a display port and an HDMI port. And you can run picture by picture. So you can have two 1080 displays, or one 3940 display, or a picture-in-picture, or all these kind of bits in between.
Wow.
And yeah, it's quite good.
Can I add one thing about curved monitors? From a sound perspective, they're a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Because you get so much reflection right back at every possible angle you can never really get away from it. So that is the only reason I've not. I mean, because I love the look of a curved monitor, but I read when I'm doing mixing and mastering, I can't use a curved monitor. I've tried it.
But there's an easy fix for that. You just cover the entire screen in foam.
That's true. Turn it off.
Right, it's no problem. It's actually perfect.
Use a control.
Flatten it out.
booth.
Just put it over your knee and just flatten it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This thing, honestly, it comes in a box the size of a wardrobe. It's about the size. Well, no, I say it's about half the size of a door. So the box. So it's quite a hefty beast. But I honestly, I was using it for a bit, and I thought, oh, this is crazy. And then I went back to my other setup, which was a 1080 above a 1080 for video editing, which is over there.
Right.
And I just thought, oh, that looks terrible. It's really tiny. But the thing is, because I use these displays and I split them off, I've got a mirror of the bottom one in front of me. I can't use it in widescreen mode because obviously this isn't a widescreen monitor. But because you've got the split down the middle, I can have it work either way. Because on Windows, you can pull, if you've got two monitors next to each other and it's a desktop, you can pull a window right across it, so it effectively looks the same. On a Mac, I've discovered you can't do that. So you can't take a window past the boundary of two displays and have it split across, even though these things, there's no bevel, obviously it's just back to back, which is
weird.
but on Windows you can. And the other thing is, every time you flip the blooming thing on a Mac, so you go by picture or one big one, the arrangement of the monitors in your monitor setup is just, it goes totally out the window, and you've got to set it up all over again, and it means your mouse is not going up, it might be going over there. You know, that's the one. Whereas PCs might seem to manage that a bit better than Macs do. So yeah, but the one wire thing is awesome.
Yeah.
I bought my child an HTC Vive.
Oh really?
That 3D thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, Mike Gregg was saying that there's a thing called Live for Vive or something, which is like
live in VR. It's an Ableton Live.
Live in VR, yeah.
It's really impressive. I tried it, and he's recently done. As a guy called Jim Simons, and he's recently created the ability to share sessions. So basically, you can have somebody, in America or whatever, join your session. Or have this. I'm not sure how it works in terms of syncing the audio, in terms of what you've got running, but it means that multiple people can get involved, and you can both run the same session or whatever from within this VR. It's bonkers.
Wow.
My kid plays games with other people, and it seems to sync up and seems to work quite well. So I reckon that our broadband's probably just fast enough to do it now.
Yeah, probably is. Right, we should probably get a show on the go. So let me go to here, get everything ready to go. I just need to get the Windows thing working out. Oh, hold on, to reboot my Mac earlier, so it's got all my nag windows are showing up. Right, standing by. We will let's do a show right now. Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 533, recording today, Wednesday the 16th of May 2018. This is the podcast to do with music technology, synthesizers, controllers, software, DJ stuff, music production, live production, anything to do with the technology involved in making, performing, sometimes selling, whatever kind of music. So this is going to last about an hour. If this is your first time, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Sonicstate, and you'll get a notification every time we go live, which is Wednesday 4 p.m. most times. In fact, we had a couple of breaks because Super Booth was not last week, the week before, and there's still quite a lot of stuff coming out from that. Super Booth, of course, big show in Berlin, and we want to welcome our guests. Before I do that, I just want to say thank you very much to Isotope. If you're into Neutron, mastering, processing your audio in any way, you can win a copy of Neutron 2 a little bit later on. It's about halfway through the show. So let's bring our chatties in. We've got the YouTube chat room, which if you subscribe, you'll be able to just grab that, youtube.com/sonicstate/live. That'll give you that. And also our friends in the IRC chat room, which is our old school chat, which I've not titled properly this week. I forgot to update the title. Apologies to all of you people. My admin skills are a bit slack. Anyway, let's say hello and welcome a few guests. We'll start with a stranger. Hello, stranger. Charles Chicky Reeves.
Hello.
He's back. Sublime-UK.com. Front of house guys. Been out on the road with Orchestral Maneuvers on the Dark all over the shop. Where have you been?
Yes. In October until December, we were all over the UK and the rest of Europe. And then February, we were all over Scandinavia and certain dates throughout the northern part of Europe. Well, actually, no. And then Portugal. And then in March, beginning of March, we headed over to the States, and I just got back. So we drove like 30,000 miles around the States.
Oh, my Lord. Chasing the sun.
Yeah, basically. Well, we started off in a blizzard on the Northeast coast, and we finished up in 40-degree weather in Florida. It's great. Loved it. But the bad thing about touring like that is you have to bring a lot of extra clothes.
How do you pack? How do you pack for a trip like that?
I have a secret. Well, it's not a secret. I'll tell everybody now. So my front of house rig is I carry a Digico console with a rack, a stage rack, and the stage rack is a 20U box that's got lots of space in it. So I packed all of my clothes for the latter part of the tour in there, and all my winter clothes I brought in a suitcase with me. And all my stuff got shipped over via rocket cargo and went through customs and everything. And then when I finished up the tour, I packed all my winter clothes in that, and it went back to the UK. And then I took everything else in a suitcase.
Where do you put your? Okay,
I bought a lot of stuff too.
Okay, that thorny problem of dirty laundry though. Where does that go for the trip back? You can't put that in your spanking Digico console case. Surely.
Actually, I do, because then when they open it up, if they start searching it, they go, "Oh, it's a bunch of dirty laundry." Then they won't search through this stuff at all every time. So I could just put all kinds of contraband in there, but anything I bought. Not that I do, of course not. But anything that you know, like I bought quite a lot of stuff for that. I bought like a new Mac Pro and stuff like that, you know, and iPads and things. And it was easier just to ship it over than to carry it with me. So I put it in there and mixed it with my dirty laundry. I'll probably get arrested now, but anyway.
Okay. Well, I might ask you a little later what you might have brought back with you, just in terms, because you usually come back with a thing or two. But we'll get on to our other guests first, and maybe we can come back to you on that.
Yes.
We also have another guy who we haven't seen for a long time, Mr. Mark Tinley, Sonus Vegas, runs a music store in Glastonbury in the UK, and just dashed in at the last minute. How are you, Mark? You well?
I'm all right. Yes, very well, thank you.
And you moved shops, right?
No, I've there's some kind of ancient electrical problem with like rubber-coated wire from the 1950s that was going to kill everyone. So they've closed the entire complex for a week to sort something out with the fuse board or something. So I've got a week off.
Oh, right, awesome.
All of these piles of things which I've been meaning to do, I'm starting to realise that I don't. A week isn't enough to catch up on them, actually. But,
well, the first week you make lists, right?
No, I think I'm. Oh my God, no! I'm in the. See, the way I tidy the shop up is when I kind of make things on the counter, and every so often I end up with so much stuff on the counter that people can't see in the glass cabinet that's there anymore. So I just get a big box, and I sweep the whole lot into the box, and then I put it somewhere. And I've got about 14 boxes like that, and I'm one by one going, oh my God, this is stock. What's this doing in here? And things that should be selling for like 50 quid and God knows what else, all mangled in with old sweet wrappers and half empty aspirin packets. And it's just incredible. I don't know how I make so much mess, but
I suspect you need a visit from Mary Portas. She's the
from who?
Mary Portas, she's the UK's kind of TV personality for sorting out retail outlets. She comes in and goes, right, what we need to do is we need to put racks here, you need to do this, you need to blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like their sort of restaurant fixer, but she fixes shops and organises them.
That sounds really useful. I could definitely do with that. Yeah,
maybe you can apply. Maybe you can apply. I don't know.
And organise my studio space as well.
I don't think she does that. I think it's mostly retail, and to be honest, it seems to be mostly to do with fashion retail. So you might need to get a few T-shirts in. Yeah. So that was probably.
I got some very fashionable ukuleles the other day.
There's a title there, right? Hold on, fashionable ukuleles. Sorry, I'm going to write that one down. I like that. Those are two words that don't ordinarily come one after the other. Although ukulele fashion, it has to be ukuleles, fashionable ukuleles. Well, Mark, thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to also say hello to Mr. Jamie Liddell, who's in Nashville.
Yeah.
Ace performer, songwriter, all of that in
the Wooden Lounge,
in the library.
And welcome from the library. Yes.
So, how much roof space is there above the steps? Because that looks like you could. Right. So I was going to say you couldn't do a kind of, oh my Lord, you couldn't do like turn it into a staircase and sort of have some kind of video descent into your playing position. Open a video that way. I'm just thinking out, random thoughts here.
I love it. Yeah,
it doesn't quite work.
Anything's possible. Anything for you, Nick. I like, a few broken legs. I mean, who cares?
It looks like the sort of place you could do one of those awesome endless domino runs, from the top of that down the side, drop a little barbel into something else, huge one of those. If you had the time to set it up, of course.
That, of course, yeah. I've got a 2.5-year-old, and I'm sure. Well, the problem with that is it takes so long to set up, and he'd just knock it down at all stages of construction. So yeah, I've got a few years to wait for that. But hey,
maybe so.
We grow into that. That's a great. I'm going to file that under dad activities.
Or a train set.
It's actually an amazing one. Yeah. No,
so what have you been up to then, Jamie? Have you been productive this week?
What have I been up to? Yeah, it's been all right. I've been in Nashville. There's this big conference going on now called Music Biz, which is quite unimaginative. It's not as good as fashionable ukuleles, which is definitely they should have thought about that. But yeah, a bunch of folks came through, and I've been chatting. I basically was on a panel with a bunch of the dudes from Native Instruments, because they've got that sounds.com coming out, part of the world of sample accessibility, and the vast world of how to meta tag 600,000 sounds in a useful way for people to make stuff quickly. So I've been in the world of chats. Of course, I've been doing the podcast. I've got my new one up with Sean O'Brien.
There we go. I'm putting that up there. That's Jamie Liddell Music, Sean O'Brien, right there.
And I made music in the episode using only this,
what
with
is
no
that?
input connected.
Is that a Boss analog delay?
An old
Ibanez.
An old Ibanez, yeah. And so, I just let it go into self oscillation and generated music solely from a delay pedal feedback.
Nice.
So that's also in the show. So I've been doing various bits, a few co-writes, and on with my dad life. Really, that's a priority, of course.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it's all going well. That sounds pretty good. Obviously, the week, it seems like Superbooth was this sort of great outpouring of stuff a couple of weeks ago. So there's not a massive amount of new releases this week, just purely because everybody sort of shot their best load at the Superbooth, I suppose, if that's not too unpleasant way of putting it. But we do have this, which is a new Moog. Oh, I said Moog right. This is the Grandmother, which is an interesting name for a synthesizer. Semi-modular, desktop. They've gone for the sort of colour-coded thing. It reminds me a bit of a 70s electronics kit crossed with a Rogue. 37 keys, sequencer, and yes, you can hear a spring reverb on there as well.
In 2011, we began our Legacy Modular project, where we began reintroducing some of Bob Moog's early.
This is a documentary which kind of talks about the build process and all those things. These are available. They made 500 available for Moogfest, which is happening this weekend coming, I believe, in Asheville, where you get that and you can get a limited edition denim jacket to go with it, which I don't know what it might say across the back. Moog, Grandmother, I don't know. It's interesting. I've yet to see it. That in itself will be quite an interesting news item. We see what it says on the denim jacket as well. Probably some tasteful patch embroidery of some kind. And yeah, it's got the Moog ladder filter, and it's also got a high pass filter, a couple of oscillators. Jamie, I'm going to come to you first because you've got a couple of Moogs in the background. So
Moogie.
You liking the colour? You like the colour of this? What do you reckon?
I love it. I love the whole thing. But I'm one of those who, I think when people do get kind of drawn into the sort of, the retro allure and possibly distracted along the way and get it wrong, I think this is really getting it right. Things like the spring reverb, I mean, I'm a huge fan of that, and just popping it on board, that's just tasty. They've got some good in and out points, so you can connect it with other stuff, and sounds really good. I love the form factor. The colors are really cool. I just think I'm a big fan. It's
channeling a bit of Radio Shack, isn't it, as well? There is a sort of which is quite nice. I put that in the headline. I think people thought that was maybe a kind of disparaging comment, but I didn't think it wasn't supposed to be. There we go.
Yeah, I heard that Moog was actually really upset when that thing with Realistic happened. There was like
they were
preemptive Behringer moment, and I think it was. Yeah, it was definitely a source of major contention. So it's almost, maybe this is like payback, limited edition payback.
Well, the actual unit itself isn't limited. They're just selling. I think they're selling 500 limited editions, special editions, which are the Moogfest editions at Moogfest. And normally it's a bit like Google always being in beta. Like the Sub 37 was sort of always a limited edition, but they made quite a lot of them. And I don't know how many they're making of this, but. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I'd love one. They're really cool. I just think they look good. I'd use that all the time.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I suppose the thing I find I get less excited about is the ladder filter kind of thing. I just find that it's just like it would be nice if there was something else going on. Oh, that's interesting. I seem to have some kind of. I don't know, Charles. 1, 2. Hello. Hopefully we're back with some sound, and perhaps people can tell us whether or not we got our sound back. 1, 2 testing. Perhaps you can tell me in the chat room whether we've got any sound. Hello there. Standing by. 1, 2. Yep. Ah, we're back.
I love it, man. Anarchy in the house.
Picture of live stuff, isn't it? That's the beauty of it all. That's what happens when things are live. So yes, that was the Moog Grandmother, available this weekend, and we're not sure what's going to happen afterwards. But mixed. Did everybody get a say? Overall, a thumbs up. Did everybody get a say? Sorry, I'm a bit flustered because I missed whether or not we did things in the right order.
Nick.
Not really me. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of.
What do you think?
Well, I know. I think
it
looks really nice. What I've heard sounds really nice. It just feels like another way to present the same thing. I suppose that's my only misgiving about it. It would be, and I think the thing that seems to make it stand out are the colours and the spring reverb, which aren't really synthesis things, but that's okay. I mean, I think it's a good entry point, and it's going to have a different flavour. It's not saturated, right? So anyway, let's see what may be the time to do. We'll take a break while I compose myself, and we can have a word from our friends at Isotope. Of course, this is Isotope Neutron 2, which very kindly being offered as a prize for this week's show. Basically, it's a fantastic mix, processing, and audio processing set of plugins that give you dynamic EQ, tonal balance, soft saturation, different compressor style, compressor gates, dynamic EQ, multi-band compressors. There's also, if you've got the advanced version, tonal balance, which allows you to sort of visualize the shape, masking meter, which I actually got an email from Rich Hilton who said he's been living with this. He just said it's absolutely fantastic for sorting out the bottom end that perhaps you can't hear in a fully treated room, which not everybody's in at all times. Hysteresis and hold on the gate, multiband transient shaper again, which is another unique feature. Add punch to percussive elements, multiband exciter as well. So there's lots and lots of ways you could use this. I mean, the Neutron 2 will work in conjunction with the Ozone 8 as well, so you can edit instances of Neutron 2 within Neutron 8 to change the characteristics of a mix. Just so many options, and if you want to check it out, go to isotope.com/neutron and you'll be able to try a full demo. I think it lasts for 10 days, so you'll be able to get the whole thing. So I should quickly just say we did have a competition which we ran last week, which was, what did we ask you? We were looking for mix masking meter and Neutron 2. We have a winner, and it's called someone called Dennis Kemp II. DT Kemp 1 or Kempel, I'm not sure, Kemp 1 perhaps it says. If you want to get in touch, we'll be able to send you a copy of Neutron 2. We've also got a competition this week as well, another copy of Neutron 2. You can win that again if we go to Twitter. It's via Twitter. We need looking for the hashtag Visual Mixer and the hashtag Neutron 2 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. The hashtag Visual Mixer, the hashtag Neutron 2 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. Actually, speaking of hashtags, I don't know, does anyone watch the Eurovision Song Contest anymore? It's a yearly thing for me because I usually sit in Twitter and write snarky comments about everybody whilst drinking. And then all these people who follow Sonicstate go, what's this? What is this? And I have to explain to them because they can't watch the Eurovision Song Contest. And of course, this year, Israel won with a really sort of offbeat and unusual pop tune. Is that something you take any interest in, Jamie? It's one of those things. It's like a kind of private secret. It's like having one of those secret vices where you might enjoy Thomas the Tank Engine or something. Do you know what I mean? But don't like to talk about it. Is Eurovision one of your secret pleasures?
Sadly not. I mean, I do remember the glory days of Bucks Fizz and stuff, of course. But then it's sort of. Nah, it's a bit shit, really, isn't it? But I mean,
basically.
What did catch my eye on Twitter though was a great musician friend of mine, Max Tundra, who I hope you're aware of because he is truly amazing. But he earnestly said that he would want to write the UK's Eurovision entry, which I thought was bold and refreshing. So you know, if Max was to write one, I would probably tune in, because he's a potent force and a creative workhorse. So you know, that would do it for me. But
That's interesting.
yeah,
it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think what happens in a lot of countries who aren't maybe known for topping international charts with their musical output, it has a higher relevance, because there's not necessarily a difference between what's happening in their pop charts and what's happening in the Eurovision. Whereas in the UK and probably US, if they were involved, there would be a difference, and it feels people treat it somehow inferiorly. I don't know, Charles, Chicky Reeves, is that something have you ever been approached to work with a Eurovision artist?
No. It's not only that. It's I've tried watching one when I first moved over here to the UK years ago, and then haven't tried since.
Never mind.
Sorry, it's
just me then.
It's just not my thing. Sorry about that.
What about in the Tinley household? Do you some people have parties, Mark, where they either bring drinks from all the countries or foods. So every act comes on, they have to have sauerkraut or whatever it may be, just a little snack or a little drink from every single country. And it turns into quite a kind of fun and interesting evening for some people.
I've never done that before, but you've actually got me quite excited by Eurovision Song Contest now.
Well, look, there we go.
I like that idea.
I dare say that some people think sounds bad, like it might be.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't me. Not this time. No, and I've not done it, but I keep thinking, I should have organised it. That would be quite fun. The other thing that I did notice, because I was driving home, and on the radio was the BBC entertainment correspondent, whatever, was talking about Eurovision, and because it is an anomaly in many ways, and what they said was a very high percentage of Eurovision winners are written by Swedes. There you
really?
go.
The vegetable?
No, Swedish pops pensters. Anyway, that's it.
They write everything. So basically, it's just more of the same.
I suppose so.
Swedes
dominate.
Dominance, yeah.
I don't know, why is it that the Swedes? I mean, is it just efficiency? I mean, not to be terribly.
There's actually there's a really good book on the subject called I think it's called The Song Factory The Song Factory. It came out about 2 years ago, and it's an excellent book about that. It's this guy who writes for the New York Times. He was taking his kid to school one day, and this kid started selecting all this music on the radio, and he's like, "What is it about this music that is like really drawing him in?" So he began this big investigation to the sort of the history of pop music, and the vast majority of this focuses on this group of people from Sweden and the history of how even they came up. It's quite fascinating. It's really, it's not about an efficiency thing. It's about, or some of it is about a cultural thing that was inspired. There was a strong movement in Sweden years and years ago to try to get away from having any Western music at all. And so everyone got these classical music educations. And what you ended up with was basically people who had this great classical education who then went on to become ABBA and people like that. And, it's sort of like once you're on top, it's very easy to keep having people on top in your organization. And they've just sort of been on top for the past 30, 40 years.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that. Cool. Interestingly, also, in case you're wondering, ABBA have reformed or recoagulated or got back together for a studio session, which is coming out in December. Which is, I know this hasn't got much to do with electronic music, although they did use a lot of the technology of the day. I really hope it's good. I would hate for it to be that, oh look what's happened to them scenario. Because in many ways, lots of people hate or love ABBA, but for the time, they are probably the most perfectly crafted pop songs. As a body of work in existence, if that's
there's not a part in any of those songs where there isn't a hook.
What's that? I can't allow that one to pass without strongly disagreeing.
Okay,
but I'm just going to only say that much because obviously it's a contentious issue. But I did notice that Boy George snarkily was saying, "What have they run out of money?" Which which is I don't know. I mean, it does.
I very much doubt it.
A bit odd.
I very much doubt it.
I very much doubt it. Imagine the revs that they generate even today. No, hey, listen, crafts people definitely, but
yes,
yeah.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
So we leave it at that.
Personally, but
yes, well, the only reason that I say this is because it's one of those, quite often you pick one of their songs and you find that you know every single element, even like the hi-hat fill. You know when it's coming, and even that's a hook. Everything in it is so perfectly placed. And that, I suppose, in terms of pop, what pop is for, then you've got to kind of credit where credit's due in many ways. Anyway, let's get on to something that maybe has something to do with music technology. What was it? Oh yeah, here we go. Got another topic. That's not it at all. Because I know what happened is my my system crashed, and that means that I basically didn't save all my video locations, which is really, really annoying. So maybe I can do it from here instead. This is, that's right, if I come to here, this is the Control X MIDI controller, which is going to be a kickstart thing. Let's see if this will work. Yeah, that's a good start. Good. So this is an interesting idea.
This is the original idea with which Control X was born. To create a really quick controller to reach any value immediately, as if we had the hardware of all our software. The structure is really simple.
Hold on, that's the MIDI controller, but here we go. This is probably what I wanted. Wrong video. Again, flustered. Let's have a look. So the idea is this matches up with the plugin and the hardware come together, which is, it's not an entirely new concept, but in terms of virtual instruments, it's possibly. So this is obviously the plugin, and then you've got the hardware that goes with it, which has got a screen and the knobs and all of that stuff. And I just thought, that's, it's a bold idea. We don't know how much it's going to cost. I think it's going to kickstart in May. But this idea, because obviously software, it in terms of features, is always going to sort of wee all over hardware, because hardware is generally a fixed architecture and there's not much you can do about it. Whereas in this situation, we've got the possibility of changing it and then having the mix up between the hardware and software. I'm going to come to you, Jamie, first again, just purely because you on the record on the show have said that software is kind of where it's at really in terms of innovation. What do you think about this as a concept?
I wish them well, because I think obviously everyone wants to sort of get their hands on the power of the ever-moving software world. I mean, the problem with software is it's on its own, isn't it? It's sort of you might not know what the engine is behind a great new innovative software product. It might be controlling the grains of some bizarre new synthesis mode that might not possibly fit nicely into a subtractive synthesis model, for example. So it seems a little bit churlish to put a template over all, if that is what indeed they're doing. I must admit I haven't looked into it. But at the same time, I just discovered I can use my little Avid Artist Mix inside Ableton, and it's been amazing. Just assigning MIDI to sliders. I mean, it seems absolutely ridiculous, but they're really good sliders, and I much prefer sliders to knobs. So yeah, I like the idea. I mean, obviously Omnisphere are all about it, and really there was a lot of excitement about sort of making software something that you could really get your hands on again. Like, obviously that's, I love that. I like to sit in front of it and get involved with it. So
that's the
that in the end, that'd be awesome.
That's the kind of the chase, isn't it? I mean, yeah, as in the chat rooms pointed out, the boutiques with the plug outs, that's another, we've got a piece of hardware with that sort of side of things. I know, Mark, I don't know what you think about this. I mean, the thing is, the new MIDI CI initiative, which if that comes out, you can query software or any hardware and it will tell you what it's got available. So this might actually introduce a whole new breed of MIDI controllers that don't require a load of setup, even if it is tied in directly to the hardware. But I mean, I guess there are two questions here. What do you think of this, and what do you think of that?
What I think of this is that my first impression of it is that it's an Arduino, so it's a computer, right? And it's
it's control
software. I would want to hear what the VST plugins actually like, and I quite like the idea, but I would want to see how it was implemented, because I've had so many of these kind of controller things which I think, oh, this is the answer to all my problems. I'll be able to control loads of stuff with this, and then actually it just generates loads of work because you have to set all sorts of stuff up. the only thing that's ever really, really worked for me, really worked for me, in fact, is the Ableton Push 2, which I've got sitting in front of me, which just happens to work with all of the Ableton plugins and is really well implemented. And I noticed that the knobs on this look remarkably like the knobs on the Ableton Push, don't they? They've got that little top hat kind of thing going on.
Yeah, maybe.
So I don't know. I'd like to try one and see how it works. I think Arduino in general is a very interesting platform. It's quite a powerful platform. I think as a central brain to something, it's probably at least as powerful as the stuff that we were using with MIDI in the 1980s. So I don't know. Without knowing the price point and without
it is a little bit
what the plugin sounds like, I'm not sure, but it looks good. It looks like it could be a viable thing.
It could be. I mean, I suppose that my other point was the fact that with the new MIDI CI, which is bound to be implemented in software first, because this is I did have capability inquiry. So it'll say these are the controls I've got. What do you want? So releasing a sort of fixed architecture controller at the moment feels like perhaps poor timing, because effectively you could use that in software to have an interface that looks a bit like this, or maybe it will be adaptable, that could just, you plug a synth in and it just says, I'm here, this is what you can have. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
That never works out, though. I mean, even with the auto map and things like that, all the knobs are in the wrong place for me whenever anything like that happens. I think, I don't need all that on this page. If I've got 8 knobs and it gives me 64 parameters, it never seems to intelligently put the parameters which you would expect to have near one another. They just kind of go in order of list of the way that the thing's programmed, rather than doing anything useful. So
I suppose, but I guess that's the sort of thing that could be lookup tables and preferences, a matrix and stuff. Charles, what do you think?
Yeah.
A of the concept, and B of the forthcoming MIDI CI, which might make something like this slightly obsolete.
Yeah. Well, the software synth they had, I didn't hear anything particularly special about it. Maybe it's gonna be great. I don't know, but I didn't hear anything special. But this controller, I like the idea of it, but it's like, I have my push 2 and I've got a couple of other little controllers, but I really only use the push 2 because I don't really need another controller. And really, as far as if I'm going to use a software synth, I don't really have that much trouble with using the trackpad and dialing things in. And if I'm using a synth that's not software, like the Matrix Brute, I like having the hands-on thing. It's something is like slightly skeuomorphic about it. The idea of like feeling like you got to have this hands-on thing with something that's a piece of software. I don't know. It does. It's I don't know. I guess it's maybe a better metaphor would be like putting some kind of place to attach your horses to the front of your car, just in case you really want to have a horse pull your car. It's like I don't really see a need for it. Maybe there is a need for it. It is, but if it's super cheap, I mean, like super cheap, okay, yeah, a little touchscreen thing with some knobs on it, great. But I just I can't really get into something like this. It's just not my thing.
Did you see the news of the Omnisphere 2.5 with the hardware maps, which is quite an interesting concept, which is, again, there's similar flavor. So, they effectively have created hardware maps for 20 synths, and you just dial it up, and then whatever synth if you've got that synth, you get one-for-one control of a synth that's built to reflect the similar architecture of that synth. So you can control the whole interface from your hardware synth.
That's great.
So yeah, I mean, it's a similar sort of concept, I suppose, but without the need to buy anything else if you've already got one of the synths and Omnisphere, I suppose.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Bigger investment. This is anyway. It's from somebody called now what are they called? Miklop, and it's going to be this. I found this on Synth Anatomy, who's getting to be very fast and finding lots of really good stuff. Do check that out, synthanatomy.com. And Control X is going to be coming out. Let's have a look. Oh gosh, where is it? Kickstarter in May, so sometime later this month. So we'll find out just how much it is, and I guess price will be the main concept. All right then, I'm going to have to. This is going to be the same issue I've got, because basically I haven't got any Let me see if I can find the video online for for the next piece, because I didn't save the document before it crashed, which is a lesson, folks, that you really must learn. So this is Node Live I'm looking for.
Oh,
so
yeah, this is great.
Node Live. I had to scroll down a bit because they're a surprising number.
I can resend you the link that you sent me if you want.
Yeah, I've got the link, but it was actually oh, damn it. Here we go. Live at the Royal College of Music, which is where the album's from. So this is sort of trailer for the Live at the Royal College of Music. The album's now available on Din Records, which is Ian Boddy's label. This is sort of modular synth supergroup, if there is such a thing, which features Dave Bessel, Ed Buller, Flood, that's him there, and Mel Wesson. And they basically improvise live, so they say. I mean, I can't imagine you just show up with no patches, nothing plugged in, and then just hit go. I expect they've got some stuff sort of vaguely organised, but no computers, apparently, all sequences. And this is an album of the tracks from that live, and this was at the Royal College of Music in 2015. And hold on, let me find my mouse. Guys, nothing worse than being completely prepared for a show and then it all falling apart and being completely unprepared for a show. I don't know, it's like one of those nightmares, isn't it? We all have those performing anxiety nightmare dreams where you've wandered onto a stage and someone goes, yeah, over here, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, play that. And you go, and you haven't got any trousers on, you know. I'm feeling a bit like that now. No, the live album from Node is a supergroup of modular proportions. This is a great idea. The idea of a sort of synthesis supergroup, Mark. I kind of like the idea of this. Even though this has sort of slightly prog rockish kind of overtones to me.
I don't know. I mean, God, what am I going to say about this?
Well, you may, you don't, you either like it or you don't.
Well, I like the idea of it from a technological standpoint, but I'm not always keen on the music that comes out of those things. So the whole idea that somebody's going to wheel that amount of gear into a place and hook it all up and actually and switch it on and then get something that's consistently musical out of it is bloody brilliant. But I want music to move a bit faster, and I want it to have more of a bleeding edge, and so I don't know, which I guess you could do as well. But those particular people write something much more musical than I would write if I was doing that gig. I think I'd have electrical explosions, thunderstorms, and things spinning around people's heads, which they may have done at one point during it. But I don't think it would work to turn what I would do with it into an album. So I don't know.
I like the idea of it. I know, Charles, I suspect...
I'm going to give it 4 gold stars out of 5.
Excellent, that's good. I mean, you know, you as a front of house guy, Charles, must realise that in this situation, yeah, they showed up. I'll bet you they got in maybe the day before, got it all set up, got everything running, maybe had a couple of rehearsal sessions and then did the gig. I mean, that's my guess.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would hope so. Yeah, especially as a front of house guy, I would really hope so. Because you just don't... I mean, in the interview that's on the site... they talk about how
Synthopia,
yeah, Synthopia. How they've sort of each gone into their individual roles, and like, you know, Flood is doing the more of the bassier, the low end stuff. So I would sort of plan for things like that. But yeah, just not knowing what's going to come out. You know, that said though, I love the idea of this, and yeah, it is kind of proggy, but like, so as I mentioned before the show, I'm doing a soundtrack thing right now, a scoring thing, and typically what I do is I tend to improvise through the whole film. You know, I'll watch a film about 10 times and improvise all the way through and then grab what I like out of it. So the idea of just showing up, not really knowing what you're going to do and improvising seems like I love stuff like that. And invariably, whatever I end up doing becomes quite musical, which doesn't always work for soundtracks, which is why I will filter certain things out. But you know, I like the idea of coming up with melodic ideas just live on the fly while people are sitting there watching me. I really enjoy that. So I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I know Flood is definitely capable of doing stuff like that. I used to have a studio directly across from him. And you know, the stuff I heard coming out of there always sounded amazing. You know, he had, of course, an incredible synth collection in there. So there's always beautiful stuff coming out there.
Yeah, he is a very creative guy. I was fortunate enough to not collaborate, but I worked on a session. He did some production work with Goldfrapp on a couple albums back, and I was brought in at one point to kind of sort out some mess and, you know, maybe program some rhythms and stuff. And I always remember, because I did something that was, you know, I just had a go and sent the stereo mix, and they went, yeah, that's great, can we just have the stem? And they didn't want any of the individual stuff, and I just felt so chuffed that he'd been part of the process of evaluating what I'd done and used it as was. I don't know if it ended up, but he would sit there with synths and just kind of improvise stuff, and then, you know, distill and stuff, and work in that way, like you say. I know, Jamie, I mean, you know, you do this sort of thing all the time, don't you? Except your setup's probably not as, doesn't take 2 or 3 days to kind of fine tune and tweak. I mean, it's the result of a lot of that ongoing evaluation, but I mean, you don't have to move something that might not go out of tune or might need a service once you'd set it up and have the engineer on hand to get it working again. So often, hopefully.
Except for my voice, I suppose. Yeah, but it's only one oscillator, so it's relatively easy to keep that in tune. But yeah, man, it's a bold proposition. You know, it takes me back to videos I used to love watching, Yellow Magic Orchestra back in the day, and just think, wow, those guys actually did that with that much gear. That's just spectacular. And, you know, it's cool just to see people trying to coax sounds out of massive sort of slightly wild beasts. So it's slightly like, you know, moving like wind. It's like kind of channeling wind.
Yeah,
you know,
I suppose
it's like channeling weather. It's like sort of like a relatively chaotic system that you're somehow like this way, and you know, of course, there's a lot of arpeggiation probably, but it sounds like it could be a good little listen. I used to love, you know, it's very old school, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is actually quite old school. It does remind me a little bit of one of those kind of vintage car rallies where he shows up with these really beautifully kind of restored, and everyone goes, check out my, you know, check out my synth. There is a sort of element of that's why I was talking about prog, not prog rock in that sense, but in terms of excess, you know, this kind of huge beast that you have to sort of set up in order to make some music, and then some kid could come along with a laptop or a synth and a reverb and get everybody rocking without having to go to all that trouble. You know, I mean, in some ways, it would be more impressive if it was 3 mono synths and they made this beautiful thing rather than this massive, which I'm sure they would be capable of as well. Absolutely be capable of.
But still, a great spectacle.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would go and see it. I thought it was a recent game. Sorry.
I want to hear stories about them having to put all of the equipment on stage using forklift trucks. That would make it much more exciting.
You want a making of video?
Yeah,
that would be kind of fun.
They had so much gear that they had to wheel, you know, bring it in on pallets, on forklifts, and 12 articulated lorries, and it'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I suppose the thing is, I wonder what the relevance is for people other than guys like us who are of a certain age and can really appreciate those sort of synths for what they are and, you know, what they represent. Whereas whether there's so much relevance for a wider audience, I suppose it's a kind of it's of its time. But they've done a number of things. I mean, I'd be interested to see what they would do now. Whether all node gigs would follow the same kind of principle of having everything set up, or whether they might kind of set themselves equipment briefs or whatever, so that you could just set yourself a technical limitation. I mean, the technical limitation here is almost the fact that it's technically almost impossible to achieve, rather than the other way around, I suppose. I don't know. Okay, right. We've got perhaps. Oh yeah, we got to do this one. We've got just time for this one. Hey, Mike. No, we haven't, because I haven't got that one either. God damn it! Hold on, I'm going to find it. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to get this now. That was another one of those embarrassing data problems. This is basically Loop Pop, who I think last Super Booth he did a rendition of Tubular Bells on various synths that he went to demo. This time he's gone to Super Booth and he's done 20 plus synths in B flat. So let me see if we can let's play this and see what this happens. This so Super Booth here, and I don't know quite how he does this. So each synth is demoed separately on the booth, which he's obviously working to a tempo and a key. and then presumably somehow monitors what he's done back. I'm not quite sure how it would work. So this is Novation Peak. It's a lovely progression, actually. This is based on a piece by somebody called Yehexel Raz, which is called NC Bemel. I hope I pronounced that. There's the GR Tasty Chips GR2, GR1. That sounds quite good, actually. That's the IK Multimedia Uno synth. Oh, very dreamy.
Yeah. Sounds like something you'd write.
Yeah, no, it's way more structured than something I'd write. Anyway, great idea. Mark, I thought this might appeal to you. How do you think he did it? Let's start with that.
How do I think he did it?
Yeah, because I mean, it's not an easy thing to achieve. Because bearing in mind, you go to a booth, it's really, really noisy, and then he has to play something on top. Or I guess maybe he has the bare bones of it, and he plays on top of it, and then multi-tracks it, and then puts it all back together again because it's fixed to the same tempo. My guess.
I reckon he had it on a DAT.
A DAT. Why not?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, some of these demonstrators, there should be a genre of music for demonstrators, because some of them are like way beyond any of the kind of musicians we all go like, oh, that person's the best keyboard player in the world, or this person's the best guitarist. I reckon demonstrators are the unsung heroes of music, because they they can get musical performances out of things that other people don't seem to be able to, if you know what I mean. So
that's true sometimes. In some cases, I would agree.
He's probably a genius.
Maybe. Well, he is. I mean, I thought it was pretty good, and I like the idea. I suspect that maybe he had. I'm just trying to think what hardware there is without taking a laptop along that allows you to overdub on top of something else. I mean, I don't think the Zooms do it. There must be a recorder that allows you to overdub. Perhaps the chat room will be able to.
Maybe it's doing it with loop pedals.
Yeah, I don't know, but you wouldn't want to take like that entire thing with you. Jamie.
Yeah.
Enjoy that.
That's great, isn't it? Wow, it's lovely, yeah.
It was lovely.
What a lovely preemptive thing. The nicest part about that for me is that he saw the event coming up on the calendar and was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. This is going to be my way to pay attention to what I do. And, hats off, because it's actually a really satisfying musical thing in and of itself, and sort of does the ticks two boxes, as it were, because it's also helping those companies and showcasing the stuff. So respect. However he's done it, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. He's got some kind of playback device or something, I would imagine, or he just knows the piece. I mean, if you practice the piece long enough, all you need is a click track.
Yeah, but you still, I suppose so you think might just have a metronome on his phone or something, and I suppose that's possible too. Do you think I'm overthinking it?
For example, if it was an ABBA song, you'd even know what the hi-hats were doing. So in the case of a man who's probably already worked out the piece, he was just going, oh, this is the bit that goes, ooh, I'm just going to do that, and then in a way, it's also a charming piece of music, but relatively, it may well not be strict. It might just be, vibing in the key of B, whatever, B flat. So,
I think the tempo's fairly solid. I think the tempo's pretty locked. So, and that in itself would be difficult, because you'd have to match it certainly. So you get the how would the arpeggio in the peak? So I think you'd have to base it on the first track that you recorded, because otherwise.
Yeah.
Your click track of what happened on some synth where it might have been hotter or colder on the day, where there's going to be a bit of drift. Just interesting. You can check it out, actually.
It's man. It's impressive.
Looppopmusic.com is where to go. Charles, what do you reckon? I figured this would appeal to you after what you just said about the improvisation stuff.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was really beautiful, and I think Jamie's got it right. He probably did put it together that way. and if he is really familiar with the piece that he was going to do, that's he probably knew all the parts, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did several takes of different instruments and later put it all together along with the video just to see what would work. But the guy is quite ingenious. Some of the stuff he does. In fact, the stuff he does with the organelle. Oh my God, it's just I love his I love his video channel. That's absolutely fantastic video channel. So yeah, hats up to him. That's great. It's great that he did that.
Yeah, it's just quality. It is an inspiring sort of way to kind of think about how to approach these relatively daunting displays of equipment and sort of make it, a palatable
I agree.
ride, so you're just not overwhelmed.
I agree. I mean, I imagine it was like I say, it's a considerable amount of work. I mean, I know how much work it was for us and our team, and I know I met him at NAMM actually. He's a really nice guy. I think he's based in Israel, Tel Aviv, possibly, or Jerusalem. I'm not sure, but I did meet him there. And like you say, his music stuff is great, and check out his YouTube channel as well. That's Loop Pop, good stuff. But yeah, a brilliant way to approach the event itself and just differentiate yourself from a bunch of people shouting in a room trying to get a decent demo out of somebody who may or may not be prepared because you want to get the first video. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I mean, in terms of just regular gathering of the news, sometimes there's a disadvantage of doing it that way, but this is a nice sort of measured way, and you also get a sense of, ooh, that synth does this. That's quite interesting. Maybe I should look into that. So it piques your interest as well, which I think is a good idea.
They might allow him at the super booth just on his own next time. So if everything's clocked and then they put everything in the same key and they just put a bit of smoke in the room and it's like just a nice tracking one shot and he just kind of moves around all the synths and coaxes
that would be awesome.
Crazy piece of music.
Well, maybe
because now everyone likes him, so
maybe he's angling for a gig. Maybe that's what he's actually doing, because there are a lot of performances at there, and some
fish
of them,
away, dude.
Yeah, I would say that's a really good concept. Anyway, I think that's. I'm going to try and extricate myself from this car crash of a technical nightmare that the show has become, and try and wrap things up a little bit in a sort of semi-professional fashion by saying thank you very much to everybody for joining us. I want to say thank you for the guys and gals in the chat rooms, YouTube chat room, for hanging in there. I think we got the audio back on track. I'm just the other reason why I'm slightly distracted is because I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to stitch this together in the edit? Because the first part of the show recorded, the second part of the show recorded only the video but not the audio, and then the second part of the show recorded the as normal. So there's this whole center section which will not be processed. We use Neutron 2 actually across the output bus of this, which is also worth mentioning. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting challenge. And speaking of Neutron 2,
we were all recording with a click, weren't we?
Yeah, I hope so.
I had a click going all the time.
Yeah, something like that.
I always try to
just dub my parts back in.
Yeah, I'll send you a script and you can dub the parts back in. Yeah, that would be great. Together with the video munging compression. I'll see if I've got a plugin that can do that. But before we
just do reaction shots at the end of the show.
Yeah, that's true. Like over the shoulder stuff.
Like
so
sonic reaction shots. Sonic reaction shot, isn't it? Just humming and ahhing.
That's a good idea. There's another title of that. Sonic reaction shots. I'm going to type that down. Sonic reaction shots. That'll be intriguing. But before we go, also I should say, don't forget, if you want to enter and win Isotope's Neutron 2, we're looking for the hashtag Visual Mixer and the hashtag Neutron 2 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's the hashtag Visual Mixer, one word, and the hashtag Neutron 2 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's via Twitter. You'll be entered to the competition to win a copy of Neutron 2 next week. But in the meantime, we'll say goodbye to all our guests. Mark Tinley, thank you very much for joining us. I know it was a bit short notice, but hanging in there and pulling it together at the last minute.
My hair otherwise, Look at that.
Oh, 2 pairs of glasses. Mark, it wouldn't be the same if you didn't have a slightly wild and different hairstyle every time you came on the show. That's part of the. That's part of the thing.
I've forgotten about the chat room. Have we got? How do I get to the chat room?
Well, we've just finished the show, mate. So it's probably going to be closing.
I apologise to the chat room for not being on top of that.
Never mind, Mark. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'll be back in about 8 months, probably.
when does your show? When does your shop reopen again?
Well, I went to speak to the landlord on Monday. He's officially closed it for a week, so officially it opens next Monday. But they've got replaced 13 fuse boards or something. So that sounds
Wow,
ominous as well.
a lot of work.
He said there's a chance I might be able to open on Saturday. So you never know. I might be out in the sun on Glastonbury High Street with all the lunatics eating ice cream.
The free thinkers.
Yes.
Oh God! Every time I go up that high street, it gets more and more crazy. I thought I was a little bit mad before I moved here, but I've reframed that and put myself into being one of the sanest people in Glastonbury. And there are some very unusual thought processes and ideas and beliefs and all sorts of things out there. So I don't worry about being mad anymore. And I recommend that if you want to come somewhere colourful, vibrant, and interesting, to visit Glastonbury for the day.
And visit your shop.
Summer, it's completely crazy. Yeah, and come and buy something from me.
Absolutely. SonusMegas.com. Thank you very much, Mark. And also Mr. Jamie Liddell.
Thank you.
Jamie Liddell there in Nashville, where you're back, presumably back to writing hit tunes and... I don't know, Infernal Machine sample packs and all that kind of stuff.
That's exactly right. Yeah, hey man, you know, got to keep the lights on in this library.
Absolutely, yeah. Even with such.
You should. I was thinking though, you could just do a whole thing in your shop, just battery powered gear.
Yeah,
just
that's
like,
a thought.
you know, if there's enough battery powered gear, then you know, so it's an opportunity to do the special edition battery powered stuff.
While they fix the fuse box.
I could ask for that quite a lot, battery-powered amps.
Yeah, lots of that going on. I'd just like to point out that Jamie Liddell, also JamieLiddellMusic.com for hanging out with audiophiles. We've got Sean O'Brien and there's up to episode 18, so lots of good listening stuff, audio stuff there. Thank you very much, Jamie, for joining us. Pleasure as
appreciate
ever.
Appreciate the plug in there, Nick. Very nice.
No problem.
But yeah, no, and I've had some love and responses from people watching from the show. So thanks to everyone for coming on and checking.
Glad to hear it.
As well. Appreciate it. Very
good.
Nice.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And also, Mr. Charles Chicky Reeves, back in the country. You back for a while now, or are you jetting off? Where's your next jet point?
I think I'm going to Germany for a few shows and then Poland for a show. But generally speaking, I'm in the UK for kind of the foreseeable future. For at least for the rest of this year, we're doing a bunch of shows, but it's here, and then I've got a lot of stuff I got to do here in the studio, so I can't really leave the country too much. So I'll be around, which is good.
Excellent. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we'll say goodbye. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. That was Sonic Talk, sort of limped along technically, but I'll try and stitch it all together. So if you're watching this and wondering what I was talking about, you obviously weren't watching live. You're watching the recorded version. Thank you very much. That's it for this week. See you later. Bye.